So estrangement is rarely one big blow up. It's usually a slow erosion over time. So something that really helps the clients that I work with understand this is actually this bridge metaphor. This bridge represents the relationship between two people. So these are the only dolls I have. So over time, the bridge might go through normal wear and tear, right? Like you might have a little bit of damage here and there, and it's generally probably okay. But then once in a while, you might have bigger damage here and there. And the problem isn't necessarily the damage because, maybe even despite the damage, you can still use the bridge in the relationship. But what happens when nothing ever gets repaired? What happens if over time the damage continues and then the bridge becomes unusable? That's basically what estrangement is. Estrangement is what happens when the damage doesn't get repaired. My name is Vivian Meraki. I'm a nervous system coach and a parenting expert, and I work a lot with families in building connection, both with themselves and with each other, in a way that doesn't sacrifice anyone. And you might say, okay, that's easy to understand as a bridge, but what do you mean by repair? How do you repair? And this is what most people don't understand about the relationships, is that we've been told our whole lives that love is all you need. All you need is love. That with love you can fix and solve anything. And we rely on the love that we feel for our children and the people that we care about to sustain the relationship. But here's what nobody talks about, is that love is actually not enough. What you actually need is one more ingredient, and that ingredient is emotional safety. Emotional safety is what you need for the love to be received by both people the way it was intended. Without that emotional safety, the love is uncommunicated or miscommunicated or just stuck, and harm starts to happen. So here's what most people don't understand. It's actually a lot harder to repair than you realize. Let's talk about this with another metaphor. So imagine you are making, just imagine this is a beautiful cup of hot chocolate that we're making. So we're making a gorgeous cup of hot chocolate that you put all your love and your intention behind, all your love and your care. And you give your child the hot chocolate. And in giving them this hot chocolate, you accidentally spill some of it on them and it burns them. We're just going to use, might have overdone that pour. Anyway. And it spills and it burns them. You saying, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. I made this hot chocolate with so much love and intention for you. That is not going to help the burn. That's just the intention. And instead, in order to address the burn, we need to actually address the impact of what happened. We actually need to address the burn, to treat the burn, or in this case, the spill. Because the burn is what hurt. The burn is what actually needs the repair. It's not the intention. But so many people have a really hard time addressing the impact. Okay, so you might say, what's the big problem, right? Like just address the impact then. Well, here's where it gets a little bit tough, is because you might not understand what the actual impact is. You might not understand what happened. You might not understand what caused it. You might not understand what the feeling was in receiving the impact of some of that harm, because this is where things get complicated in the dynamics of a family and the relationship. And the only way for you to know is if you ask. But sometimes the very act of that conversation can become very difficult because it can feel awful, like I did something wrong, that I was bad, and what that ends up meaning for the different people involved. And that's what makes it so hard. And if you think about it, something like a burn can take some time to heal. So it's not an easy fix. Okay, repair is difficult, but I still want to try. What do I need to do to repair? Well, let's get into the ingredients. The first ingredient is that both people need to want that connection. Both people need to want to try. So that's the first thing. The second thing that's needed is that, especially for the person who did the harm versus the person who felt the harm, there needs to be an openness to have the conversation in a way where they're curious and wanting to understand what the harm was. What was it? What did they feel? How did it come about? All of those things. And only when they start to understand can we start to rebuild a little bit more and work towards repair. The third element that we need is that we need to continue and then build up accountability. Accountability is what allows there to be actually progress in terms of some of the healing, in saying, I acknowledge that I did something and I want to do something about it. Accountability is essential. And then from there, apart from accountability, is then a willingness to change, a willingness to actually start to do something so that the harms that caused, or the actions and the behavior that may have caused the harm in the past, are things that get adjusted and changed so that they don't continue to do harm again into the future. And so we work on that. And over time, just like it took a really long time to create the harm and to do the damage, it can take time to rebuild this bridge. And those moments are rebuilt in the micro moments, just like the wear and tear happens in micro moments. And the idea with trust is that trust can only be built step by step from the ground up. There's no skipping levels. So once the trust is eroded and the connection has been eroded, it needs to be rebuilt again from the bottom up. And what it takes is patience, conversation, open communication, boundaries. So this person needs to say what they need, and this person needs to be willing to listen and make the changes so that the connection and the bridge can be rebuilt again. You may ask, how do I know this? Well, it's because I lived it. It's because I experienced estrangement firsthand in my own family, and I found my way through repair. And I came to understand what works and what needs to be there, and now this is something that I work with other people on in translating that into their lives as well. And at the heart of everything that I'm sharing, there's actually one more component that I want to share with you that's really important. And that is emotional safety. It's something that I talked about earlier. So all of this work, and the reason we do it like this, is because what we're trying to do is that we're trying to rebuild emotional safety. Emotional safety, as I explain it, is the safety for someone to feel like they can be who they are and still be accepted. Where they can feel seen, heard, and understood and accepted for who they are, where they don't feel judged, where they don't feel mocked, where they don't feel like they have to change who they are in order to meet some kind of expectation that someone else has on them in order to be worthy of love. That's emotional safety. So if you think about that and feel how it might land for you, think about what emotional safety may have meant for you. And for many of you, you may have never felt emotional safety previously. And here's the clincher. You can't give what you don't have. So if you've never experienced emotional safety, you're not really able to provide it for another person until you start to learn it and start creating it for yourself. And that's what also makes this so hard. But let's talk about emotional safety. So the first one is that emotional safety is a requirement. Sometimes we take for granted, like I was saying before, that love is all you need. If I have love, then the connection will last, the relationship will build, and everything's going to be just fine. But here's the thing, everything's not fine. Because like I said, emotional safety is what allows the connection to connect and what allows the love to be received. And love is important, but it's not going to work on its own. So safety is a requirement. You might be thinking, well, I have a roof over their head, I had food in their bellies, what's wrong? Like, they were safe. That is a physical safety, and yes, they absolutely were. But if they didn't feel emotionally safe to be who they were, then they were still, their nervous system still feels that they're on edge and they're in fight or flight mode, needing to chase worth, chase performance, chase certain behaviors in order to be worthy of love. And emotional safety is something that is felt in the body. It's not felt through the mind. So you can't will yourself into safety. It must be felt and known through the body. And that's where somatic work and the work that I do with nervous systems really comes in. And so many of us, it is so common where we are unknowingly eroding emotional safety right out from under our children, and we don't even realize, because we weren't taught how to create emotional safety for each other, most of all ourselves. The second piece is related in that safety is something that is built. It is something that is, did I spell that right? Yeah, built. It's something that is built and it's nurtured over time. It is not assumed. So it doesn't just exist just because you want it to. It's something that must be built over time with intention. And what's beautiful about this is that because of that, safety is not something that requires you to do more. Rather, it's about slowing down and doing less and being really present to the person that you're dealing with. It's about really truly seeing them, hearing them, and aiming to understand them. And when that happens, you start to create safety. You start to build it. It starts to be something that you move towards together, so long as you're doing it in a way where you're not in the back of your mind judging them, criticizing them, mocking them, etc. And lastly, the last point that I'm going to talk about is that safety is both personal and it is collective. So what I mean by that is that it is personal to the individual. Like I said, it's personal because you can only give what you have yourself. So understanding and starting to learn how to create safety for yourself that you can then transition and offer to the people that you love is number one. And the other aspect is it is collective, in that we're mammals and we co-regulate each other. And so the more safety that we create in our communities and in our families, the more compounds and builds together, where you end up co-regulating each other into a state of safety instead of in a state of stress, fight or flight or freeze. And here's the difficult aspect of all of this, is that this is complicated and it runs really deep. And sometimes reconciliation is not possible right now. And I say right now because it doesn't mean forever, it just means right now. And sometimes the most compassionate choice for all the people involved is that maybe the bridge is not usable right now. And that is not a failure, that's a reality. And sometimes the clarity that you get from understanding that and accepting that in the moment can help in the future. But if you're someone that wants to repair and reconcile, think about those 4 ingredients we talked about. Think about what's available to you. Think about what might be missing and how you might be able to bridge and get what is missing and obtain it so that you're able to move forward. This was one conversation, and I'm trying to simplify these very complex things into simple. But if you feel like you need support or if you want more conversations, my line is open. DM me, shoot me a message, and we can talk about what it's like to work with me. And aside from that, if what I shared really resonated with you, follow for more.